little bit more about me. I have 30 years of project management experience. She did say the different PMI certifications I have. I am a department chair, and part of the duties that I have as a department chair is I do have to do research. So some of the research that I do is on practical applications of disruptive technologies, such as AI. I am not a coder. I don't know ones and zeros at all, but I do like to go in and see how we in business, how those in project management can use artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and other disruptive technologies as they come along. So hopefully this seminar, this presentation will help you understand how you too can use project management and artificial intelligence to get your PMO to go a little bit further than, say, a PMO that does not. So let's get going now. So part of the agenda that we'll be going through is we'll have to learn what is artificial intelligence, because it's different for different people. I'll go into a healthcare, because healthcare actually has a lot of AI incorporated into it. And the reason I use healthcare is because they're far advanced from the other industries. So what is the state of AI and what is the ethics around it? Because we always have to talk about it. Then we'll talk a little bit about the PMO and AI. And then what business tools can you use for your PMO that involve AI and to help you further along? And how can you use this AI, as I just mentioned? And then how is you as a project manager or as a CAPM or an expediter, how can you use AI to give you more value add within that PMO and make you more value add to the organization? And if your organization does not have AI, or they're not letting you use AI, how can you put together a case for you to use AI? And then we'll have a few conclusions. So what is artificial intelligence? Well, artificial intelligence has many, many different meanings depending what you think about it. So when you think about artificial intelligence, many people think about HAL, which was the computer system on 2001: A Space Odyssey. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's a rather dated movie, but it was talking about artificial intelligence. There's also the Terminator. If you have seen that, the Terminator was based on artificial intelligence, and Will Smith in the movie AI. So all of these were based on artificial intelligence, and some were scary, some were not. But are we close to that at all? I can tell you at this point, Terminator and AI, the artificial robot in the movie by Will Smith, we're not close to that, although we're getting there. However, we are fairly close to HAL. Hopefully we won't have one that malfunctions like HAL did, but is it scary? For me, it is scary, but it's also fascinating because I see us being able to harness data, because that's what artificial intelligence does. It is harnessing data for us. But think about it, AI is all around us. Artificial intelligence is all around us. It is on your laptop. If you do a search on your laptop, if you're using a Microsoft product on your laptop and looking at grammar and looking at spelling, that's all rudimentary AI. So you are using AI also when you ask a question on a website, or if you're asking a question either written or orally. It's a chat bot that comes back to you. And what it's doing is, once you ask that question, whether they've heard that question before or not, it will go back and look at all the data that it has had and then start putting together a response for you. Sometimes the response is correct. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we get very frustrated. I know I do, because I can't get to what I need to do on that website. So when you're going down a bunch of choices, especially when you call somebody, you have what they in the United States we call them conversant systems, and it'll ask you a question and you'll answer, and then it'll ask another question and it'll answer, and sometimes it'll get you to what you need to do, but sometimes you just have to ask for an agent or a person because it's not responding the way you're wanting it to. So I like to say that AI is in the toddler stage. It has come out of its infancy stage and it's now to the toddler stage. It's not in the teen stage yet, but it's getting there. And it's not a mature technology at this point. So Wikipedia defines AI as machine intelligence. But to me, it's much, much more. Scientists today are making AI just go by leaps and bounds, and it's advancing rapidly. And you'll be quite interested to see where it has really advanced, and that's especially in the area of healthcare. And I challenge you to go out and look up Sophia, the AI robot. You will be amazed about Sophia. Sophia actually has, you can read her face. She has facial cues. She can answer, she can hold conversation with you. She can laugh. She can crack jokes with you. So if you're talking and she wants to make it more lighthearted, she can make a joke. They're also creating, Sophia is going to have I don't know if it's a brother or a sister, but they're creating a more, Sophia, I would say, is in her adult stage, and they're creating somebody that's maybe 8, 9, or 10 years old. And you notice I said somebody, it's actually a robot. And again, it's all computer based. It's ones and zeros that is driving Sophia. So what is artificial intelligence? We're going to continue with that. There are many, many terms for AI. Right now, if you look it up, there's over 50 terms. And some of the terms are algorithm. Yep, an algorithm is part of AI. Neural networks, because what they're trying to do with AI in many facets is to reinvent our brain so that we can see it. Natural language processing. So when you, for example, talk to Sophia, you want it to be a natural language. You don't want it to sound robotic. There's the black box, and we'll discuss black box and all of these terms a little bit later. Reinforcement learning, intelligent robots, etc. And I'll go over some more terms in just a little bit. Terms are, though, aligned normally with the industry that you're dealing with. So if you were manufacturing, you would hear different terms for AI than if you were, for example, in healthcare or project management. We hear a lot about algorithms, and they are used widely in social media. So when you see the pop-up ads that come out on your social media, it's because it's gathering data on you and putting this all together on algorithms. And so, for example, if you did a search to buy some furniture, all of a sudden you're going to see all these pop-up ads or pop-up things about furniture, especially about the type of furniture that you wanted. And we'll discuss algorithms and project management a little bit later. Remember, AI, as I keep on saying, it's a computer program. Somebody has to put the ones and zeros and the logic behind it. Unfortunately, project management is not as sophisticated in AI or any disruptive technology. But AI can help the PM. And I think we need to be driving the software companies that are putting AI into project management software, because we just are not there yet. And we need to be there, because think about it, projects are data driven. And we need to understand the data that are in our projects. So, did you know that AI has been used since the 1950s? Yep, it's been around for a long time. Some will say that AI has been around since aliens landed on the Earth back in the Egyptians' days. I am not going to get into whether we had aliens on Earth during the Egyptians and the Mayas and all of that. But Some will say that all the things that you see around the Mayas and the Egyptians, they had to have had some intelligent being. And therefore, those intelligent beings may have had AI. But think about the Cray computers that we had in the 1950s and 60s. The first Cray computer did a rudimentary math item. It was using AI. And as it came along, they started being able to put more logic into it. And slowly the Cray computers were learning from itself. So if it said that 1 + 1 was 3, it was originally told that, no, that's incorrect. It's 1 + 1 = 2. So it was starting to learn. But your laptop is also learning about you. So for example, if you write English, and there's various English dialects, for example, English in Britain or Australia is different than English in the United States. Yes, we can understand each other, but different terms mean different things, and different words are written differently in the different dialects of English. So your machine may learn, actually it's Microsoft, will learn that maybe you are writing in the King's English, as they call it, or the Queen's English. Now it's the King's English. I am writing in a British type article, but I speak in the American dialect. So your laptop will learn that from you. Microsoft will learn that from you. So what are some of the other terms that we have for AI? Robotics, I mentioned one, artificial intelligence or AI, expert system, intelligent retrieval. So if I'm trying to get data out, I'm doing an intelligent retrieval, knowledge engineering. Yeah, we're engineering knowledge, machine learning, as I mentioned before, natural language processing, development of thinking computer systems, neural networks. And neural networks are, if you look at it, you kind of see what they call, looks like a brain and the networks going through it. Cybernetics, that's what Terminator would be cybernetics. And as I mentioned before, AI is all around us. If you use your phone and ask your phone, whether it be Android or Apple, which would be Siri, and you ask it a question, it comes back, and that is artificial intelligence. So if you use a Google network within your house, or if you use Siri within your house, again, you're using artificial intelligence. So there's no need to be scared of it at this point. It is there to help us. So let's talk a little bit about healthcare. Where in healthcare? There is a lot of data in healthcare. Think about all the healthcare that you have received. If we could harness all that data at one time, it might be that the healthcare system could see what's going on with you. For example, women get mammograms, and if it can follow your mammograms over the years, it's going to pick up data that maybe a radiologist would not be able to pick up soon. They now do 3D AI for mammograms, but they do AI in all X-rays now, or all CAT scans or MRIs. AI is helping that doctor read that X-ray. So maybe the doctor sees something fuzzy and doesn't really know if it's something to be concerned about, or there was just a problem with the X-ray. The doctor can then now go to AI and say, can you look at this in further detail? And maybe order more tests, or maybe say, no, it was just an anomaly. There's no area that we need to look at. Some other things that AI has been used for outside of the medical system, but within healthcare. when we had COVID, it was able to predict hotspots, where the next hotspot is going to be. And what do I mean by hotspot? Hotspot is an area where we're going to see increase of COVID for whatever reasons. Maybe it might be New York City because we had a lot of people traveling in from, let's say, the United Kingdom, because they were having big outbreak of COVID, or Norway, or any place, or Australia. But we saw that influx of people in that area. So it's predicting hotspots all over the world. Robots also deliver essentials to us in healthcare settings. So we had different things that could be done by robots. We have prescriptions being dealt out by robots. We have in Japan, and I'll get into it a little later on, robots are delivering meds to patients, so people don't have to go into patients that have COVID and give them their meds. Same thing with food, that we have food being delivered by robots. But let's get back to the pandemic that we just had. Our hospital workers needed to understand COVID, not only for their safety, but also determining if the patient they're dealing with, do they have pneumonia or do they have COVID? And quickly, AI was putting together all the different symptoms that we as humans were having with COVID, and why were some dying and some were not. So this was all put together by AI. AI was looking at it. And then quickly, there were cures that were trying to be, or different things, different medicines that we currently had that were helping with AI. So all of those resources were being used for AI to help us as humans. So we needed to know as humans, how do we get this pandemic under control? 100 years ago, when they had the flu pandemic, they didn't have AI to help them. They were at the mercy of the flu, and they didn't understand except to isolate people. And even then, they weren't isolating because they didn't know that it was an airborne transmission. So AI is very important for us because we need to understand what is going on in healthcare. Did you know that within healthcare, emergency medical technicians, and I am one, starts usually with a phone call. And what happens is that usually there's a central system. In the United States, it's 911. And there are AIs within EMT dispatch systems. So for example, when the person on the phone is talking to the person in crisis, that there is a system in place, there's AI within the dispatch system that tells them what kind of questions to ask. So based on it, if the system hears, for example, gunshots in the background, it will give a different set of questions than it will to if it's a medical emergency, or if somebody believes there's somebody breaking into their systems, or if it hears the mention of hazardous materials. So somebody may call and say, hey, a truck is rolled over and it's got nitroglycerin, for example, in it. It will understand, the system will understand, I now need to dispatch different people and I need to tell them to stay away from it until the correct hazmat people are there. It will dispatch EMTs if necessary. It will dispatch police and EMTs. And as I mentioned, it might dispatch hazmats. So that's all based on the clues that this system is hearing in the background. What are other systems that are being used? As I mentioned before, it's assistant radiologists read all of your different imagery around your system. It started reading and put together the lungs of COVID patients to tell us what was going on with those COVID patients and which ones were going to probably die and which ones weren't. And then it started gauging that, hey, this person has the COVID lungs of somebody that may probably die. But if you give them these drugs, that may stop the COVID from spreading faster. Excuse me. We also found out quickly that putting severe COVID patients on their chests in the hospital rather than on their backs took pressure off of the lungs. All the drugs, the vaccines that were developed for COVID, many are thinking, well, wow, how were they developed so quickly and why can't we do that for other things? Well, that was done through AI. Moderna actually used a proprietary AI system to develop all their drugs, and especially their COVID vaccine. And I'm sure Pfizer used it as well. And what that did was help them, based on the symptoms, target the areas that they thought were COVID. And we also had pictures of COVID, so we knew what it looked like. So now the AI could go and say, well, this kind of vaccine would work, but this kind of vaccine wouldn't. So they have found that when you are using all of these things, we can actually put a drug out there quicker. Did you know that also AI is increasing the quality of life for people that have brain injuries, spinal injuries? And what it's doing is the brain is just is processing, and they increase the neural network down to the prosthetic. So it's electricity that our brain generates when it's sending messages. So now they can take this electrical stimuli from the brain and get it down to prosthetics. But I just recently read it's not only doing it with prosthetics, it's also doing it with people that had spinal cord injuries, and they're now being able to send messages around where the spinal cord was broken and send a message to the legs or the arms or other areas of the human body. And they've actually been able to have a person that couldn't move their toe. And they've also now have sent brain messages to their legs where they're actually feeling impulses into their legs. Are they walking yet? Not quite. But who knows, in 20 years, 10 to 20 years, people with spinal cord injuries won't even be able to realize that they've had a spinal cord injury because the people will be able to walk. We're also seeing more prosthetics that look more human. They're no longer the robotic items that they do. They put kind of a skin over it and it's moving. They have prosthetic limbs that can now hold a glass and it can bring it up to the person's mouth and that person can now drink from that glass. To me, that's amazing. It goes way farther than what we were used to doing with prosthetic limbs. So it learns, these prosthetic limbs learn from the patient. So the person who grabs that glass, they may learn that, wow, this glass is slippery because it's very cold. So this patient likes to drink with very cold drinks. So I have to maybe hold onto it tighter because the first time I held onto it, it fell to the ground and broke. So those are things that the AI is doing for us in healthcare. To me, it's just amazing what is going on. So let's switch from healthcare and talk about AI and ethics. Remember, I told you that AI is ones and zeros. It is a computer program. And since it's a computer program, it depends on people to code it. And the ethics will depend on the person coding it. And it also will depend on the industry that it's in. So as I mentioned before, it's not really one thing. AI is good for data analysis, as I mentioned, looking up all the data. It is very good at imagery, which is also, again, data. Think about it. We have self-driving vehicles. So that self-driving vehicle has got to understand what's going on around it. So that's imagery. We also have self-driving ships and drones. So they have to be able to correlate the data that's coming into it and correlate what the person that is behind it, because there's always a person behind it. Remember, we as humans are responsible for that AI. That AI is not responsible for itself. We also have smart and dumb robots. Smart robots are the ones that have disruptive technologies in it, such as AI. Dumb robots don't. Dumb robots are just going from A to B. So it might say, this robot grabs this off the conveyor belt and puts it over here onto a pallet. That's all that dumb robot does. It doesn't understand that if that item is broken, that it should put it on a different pallet. It just goes from A to B. We have AIs that predict pandemics. And in fact, before the pandemic really hit, about 3 months before it really hit, there was an AI that predicted there was going to be a pandemic in the world. Nobody believed it, but it accurately predicted that. So we understand that AI is better at data correlation than humans are. We have AI that does surgery. I recently went through open heart surgery, and it was done with robotics and AI. And I felt more comfortable with that than with a surgeon opening up my heart with a scalpel. So that is what's going on. It's just amazing what's going on. I was in and out of the hospital in 3 days with that robotic surgery. We have manufacturing that uses robotic AI all the time. There is a warehouse in Europe, I'm not sure, I think it's in Norway, that it actually closes and opens all of the stacks of equipment based on people walking around, what has been requested, and little robots that are going around trying to get things. So for example, if it sees somebody coming and it knows that I've asked for something in this aisle, and there may be 20 different aisles, it will close everything, but it will not close on a human. So it might put out a beep or something saying, we are getting ready to close this aisle, but it will not close if there's a human or if there's a robot there. So there's many the Fortune 2000 companies all have a lot of data, and all of them are using AI. So there's too many tools that do not incorporate AI that should. And for example, in project management, if we don't use more AI, we're going to get behind. So it needs to hinder many industries that are not using AI, and it will help us if it does use AI. So how is it that some of the professions are failing? Well, they probably think they really don't need it. And that really is a shame. So what we need to do is understand that AI depends on us as humans to make sure that we are looking at it correctly. And what does this mean? Let me give you an example of an unethical AI. There was an AI software that was put into some jail systems, and it was here in the United States. And unfortunately, it was not piloted correctly. And it predicted those prisoners that were released that would commit a crime again. Well, it ended up that it was being very gender biased, and it was being very race biased. And what happened was the data that was put into this system only included those that went out and recommitted crimes. It did not go out and look at those that had not committed a crime after they were released from jail. So it was only looking at one set of the data. This was something, of course, as soon as that was realized, it was stopped. But this was not understanding what was happening, as I call it, the black box. So we have data coming in, it is turned in this black box, and we have data that's pushed out. We as humans have to understand the data that's putting in. Is it the correct data based on what we're trying to find out? We need to understand what's going on inside of that and then what comes out. So we need to put test data in there. Is the test data that I put in and then is turned, is it the expected outcome? If it is not the expected outcome, we as humans need to stop that AI and understand what goes through it and what's happening. So if we don't understand that, then we are negligent. Also, remember that ethics is not worldwide. Ethics in Eastern countries, it's different than ethics in Western countries. And that's not good or bad, it's just different. So when you are using an AI, you have to understand which ethical area are you using within AI? Are you going to have a self-driving vehicle that uses ethics from, you can't have it using Eastern ethics in the Western cultures. So those are things that you need to look at. So we as human beings are responsible for the ethics in the AI. So IT departments that use AI need to be testing the ethical makeup of that. And we now have CTOs, and we even have chief ethics officers in some big corporations. And those ethics officers need to be understanding not only ethics from what is driven about humans, but it needs to look at the ethics within the AI that it uses within its companies. And I'm going to guess that many chief ethics officers don't realize that they need to do that. They don't realize that there's ethics involved in AI. And let me say again that the technology itself, AI, is neither ethical or unethical. It's just there, it's technology. It is us as human beings that drive its ethics. Remember, it's learning from what has been programmed in it. So as I said before, AI was predicting hotspots. It predicts robots delivering essentials into quarantine. It analyzes the data of patients, and it determines if new patients are going to have anything that we are going to need as project managers if we're doing software in the healthcare industry. Remember, we have project managers in the healthcare industry, so we have to look at that as well. So what is the state of AI and ethics? Per PMI Pulse of the Profession, we have knowledge-based systems. And knowledge-based systems understand the context of the data being processed. So it understands the data that's there. And it's helping support human beings that support human learning and decision making. So knowledge-based systems help us as make decisions. And therefore we have to look at the ethics of those knowledge-based systems. Then in 2019, also 37% of our companies said that they were using AI. But in the near future, and that is 2022, they were expecting to have 71% of us using AI in companies. And we should be, we need to use them, or else that company and the people in it are going to fall behind. So what is the machine learning? Machine learning analyzes data to build models by detecting patterns yielding improved decision-making with minimal human intervention. So the machine is actually learning more so than trying to drive decision-making within the human beings. Although human beings can also drive the decisions within machine learning. But think about earthquakes and building buildings. In machine learning, it can tell the architect and the construction manager what needs to be done so that's a better building in case of hurricanes, in case of earthquakes. So in 2019, 31% of industries that needed machine learning were using them. But again, by 2022, it was expected to be 69%. So I'm eager to see what PMI does with their next pulse of the profession to determine if those percentages are true. So decision management creates an intelligent process or set of processes based on rules and logic to automate decision making. That is something we can use in project management. So we need to give it a set of processes, and believe me, we are process driven in project management, and the rules of that so that it can automate decision making. Think about what that could do for us. So only 29% of companies said that they were using that in their companies, but we expect that to be 68% in the future, in 2022. So going on with this, expert systems, which is a different type of AI, emulates and mimics human intelligence, skills, or behavior in a particular field, topic, or skill. We expected 21% of those, and there were 21% of companies using it in 2019. And in the future, 2022, we expected it to be 64%. So deep learning builds, trains, and tests neural networks, which are other AIs that predict outcomes and or classify unstructured databases on probabilities. So that's what we saw when it was predicting COVID. Which patients are going to die, which patients are not, which items were being, which medicines were good for that and which ones weren't. So in 2019, we had 21% of companies using AI, that type of AI. And in 2022, we expected it to be 63%. If I had to guess, I'm going to guess that we actually have more because of the pandemic. So what is robotic process automation? It mimics and automates human tasks to support corporate processes. In 2019, there were 21% of the companies had it. And in 2022, we expect it to be about 62%. And again, as I mentioned before, we had these items going on, and we didn't know what was going on with them. So again, I want to emphasize that with all of these AIs, there's different ways of showing ethics within there. So ethics are moral principles. And again, I said they're not universal. They are personal to us. Ethics are personal to us. But a company can have its own ethics statement. And therefore, whoever is in charge of that technology and the ethics within it need to understand the ethics of that AI, because it may have not been coded correctly for the ethics of our company. And it's the leadership of that company has to know that AI. Remember, it's the black box problem. So if data's going in, something happens to that data and data's going out. So we have to test that data to understand what's going on. And it behooves the leadership in that company to do that. And you as project managers, if you are using a project management tool or AI from your company, and it's not doing what you expect it to do, then you need to report that up the chain to your boss, to the technology department, because that means the AI is learning incorrectly. So let's talk about the PMO and AI. So when you talk about the PMO and AI, you've got to understand, what does that PMO do? Is it a project PMO? Is it a program PMO? Is it an enterprise-wide PMO? Does it include portfolio management? Some PMOs do, some don't. Does it coordinate with other PMOs? But think of all that data that PMO is getting. That it is impossible for humans to take in all of that data and then make a correct decision or a most prudent decision. Even the smallest of projects nowadays have so much data that it might take 50 to 100 people to analyze all that data. Then you have a communication problem, because you have to have all those people talking to each other to coordinate all of that data, and they still may not come up with that. AI is doing that in a matter of seconds or minutes, depending on what's going on. So, as I mentioned, the PMO is data intensive. Whether it's just a project PMO, there's a lot of data. It's looking at the risk management on that data and the processes of the data. It's looking at integration management, real-time status. Can you imagine being able to have real-time status on your project? Drill down capability. Let's say the CEO heard that something was going on a major project or a program, and he can click a button or say, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you had a Siri or a Google on your desktop and say, hey, Siri, what's going on with the XYZ program? And that chatbot would come back to you immediately to tell you what's going on. Or think of you as a project manager. We all have our biases. It might come back and tell me, let's say I'm doing risk management on a program, and I'm looking at all these risks, and Siri says, but Wanda, have you ever thought about this risk? Because based on the data I'm seeing, this is coming up because of the cost and what's happened on other projects. So it can do that for us. Like I said, drill down capabilities. Believe it or not, we also have AIs that are developing presentations for us. Can you imagine if you had a standard presentation? It could do all of that, put it together, and allow us to do value add. Chatbots, there's chatbots out there that can help us as well. And it can also help us with our emails. But let's drill down a little bit in that. So what AI and business tools can you use in your PMO to help you? There's many out there. These are all items that can help your projects. It can help your PMO. It can help your portfolio. And depending, as I said, what type of PMO you have, you can use all of them. They all can help projects, like I said, or they can help other things. So according to, as I said, in the PMI Pulse of the report done in 2019, the following was seen and expected. I told you all about those different tools, but also in 2019, Gartner reported that 60% of companies surveyed had AI. Only 4 projects on AI, but expected to jump 35% to 20 in 2022. To me, that's pretty shameful that in 2019, we only had 4% of our projects on AI. Gartner predicts that by 2021, the technology will create 2.9 trillion, that's with a T, $1 trillion of benefit to business value, and 6.2 billion hours of worker productivity based on the AI. Project professionals should expect that their projects will now be more successful, or that we will be able to see them going into failure mode much sooner. So we should see AI jump from 23% to 37% within our AI innovations. So that came from cracking the code on project performance that was done by Project Management Institute. AI technologies are already, like I said, contributing to productivity and better quality. What else is it doing? It's reinforcing learning, so we can learn from our AIs. It's machine learning. So if you're doing an AI that has to do with machine learning, there's a 61% AI technologies that increase quality are anti-bias solutions, are 68%, expert systems are 61%, and knowledge-based systems are 59%. Newer technologies include facial recognition. We now have telephones that cell phones, I'm sorry, that you can look at it and it knows you by your facial recognition. So AI is going to help us in things that we do all the time as a PMO. So as I said, many industries are using it, and these are the tools that you can use within your PMO. It's just amazing that you can do all of these things. And we have, yes, I have some more healthcare in here, but think about it. PMOs are in all different industries. So if your PMO is in healthcare, it's got to be able to go out and get those items so that you can bring it in for the next item that you are creating. Same thing with an industry, any industry, pick manufacturing. If you are creating robots, robotic systems for industry, you have to be able to go out to the data and find out what's going on. Walmart is using, from its PMO, it was able to create autonomous 18-wheelers, big, huge semi-trucks, and drones to help it become a better business. And you as the PMO, this was done through their PMO. And they also have trains that are autonomous going out there. The shipping industry, they have now autonomous ships out there. Think of all the amount of money they are making because they don't have to put as many people on the ships. And they are now making it safer because they don't put those people in harm's way being on a ship. It doesn't say that the types of jobs are going away, because they're not, they're just shifting. So instead of having somebody driving the ship out on the ship, they are now on land driving the ship. I'm not saying that this ship is doing it all on its own. It's not. It's the PMO that's doing this for them. Cybersecurity is being driven by PMOs right now. Because of AI systems, why the PMO in their cybersecurity systems at banks, we now see millions and millions and millions of hacking jobs that are stopped. Yes, some still get through, unfortunately, but millions and millions are not because of cybersecurity. And sometimes, believe it or not, they might let the hack go through. The PMO will let the hack go through because they want to find out where it's coming from, find the people that are hacking the system. So your PMO can use all different types of AI systems to create their PMO, but you have to understand what's going on in your business as far as AI, and that's where you become a value add as a project manager. So we have robots in AI and that have natural voice. We can use autonomous vehicles, as I mentioned, and machine learning to solve software bugs. So think of your PMO and what your PMO does. These could all be used as part of your PMO. So if you're a PMO in a mining industry and you're tasked to make it more safe, or your task to do the bottom line of it, or to integrate the different projects that are going and how they can help each other. You can use machine learning to solve the software bugs that you're seeing. You can use chatbots to go out and harness data from the different things and bring it all together. You might decide to use autonomous vehicles. So you, as the project manager, need to understand your industry and how you can use it. So here are some other base things: knowledge-based systems, natural language processing, and robots. So as I mentioned, think about having a live agent. We will get to the point where you will have an agent sitting on a chatbot sitting on your desk, and you can go out and tell it to go, what is the latest risk on this, or how's this risk? What are the cost data? Where am I overspending? Where am I underspending? So the mundane stuff can all be done by that. We might want to do facial recognition within our project. So we have to do all of that in our PMO. We've got to understand what is it that we're trying to do in our PMO, and what AIs can we have, and what AIs are available in our company that can help us. So you can have expert systems that can help you as well. So we need to understand those and understand what we're doing. So if you were in healthcare industry PMO, again, you might want to do doctors. You're doing a software for doctors. You might want to do a decision tree for doctors. That's all expert systems. FAQs that are done by IT corporations. This is all done with AI systems. The internal revenue system or your tax system in your company provides information through expert systems. Doing audits within a company, if your PMO is responsible for audits of projects, you can have AI help you. Deep learning. What is your industry having to do with deep learning? Maybe your industry is using AIs to monitor other AIs and to help those AIs learn by coming all together. That is deep learning. So maybe you're in a scientific area where all of this is done. Maybe you're doing massive research where you have to bring different databases together. Your PMO can use all of these things and must use all of these things, or they're going to fall behind. Again, you need to tap into your company's data. You need to understand the imagery that's going on into your data. Imagery is just not doing satellite images of the Earth or out in outer space. Think of imagery of your body, X-rays, CAT scans, all kinds of different types of imagery is going on. There's imagery of prosthetics, there's imagery of other things. So you can do you don't want to do the mundane. If you do the mundane, then you are not a value add to your organizations. Think about what if scenarios that PMOs do all the time, or that you do on projects. What happens if I accelerate this, but decelerate something else? That can be done in seconds or minutes by AI. So a personal digital assistant for managing your daily tasks. And I apologize for this. You probably can't see what's going on this. I apologize. I thought I had put it in black lettering, but evidently it didn't go through. But so let me talk about this. You can use a personal digital assistant for managing your daily tasks. AI learns how you communicate. AI will suggest a need to change. It will draft emails. It'll even send emails, and it can create memos and can create a list of daily activities that need to be done. So that's all the mundane. Are we totally there yet? No. And remember, you as the PMO leader or working in the PMO are still responsible for what AI generates. So if it generates an email for you, then you must make sure that that email is correct and going to the correct people. If you want to make it a more personalized email, AI will start to learn you depending on the type of AI that you're using. It will also start learning how you communicate. Do I use this word more frequently than another? It might also suggest, hey, Wanda, you're using the word okay too much. You might want to use this, a different word, such as, is this correct? So those are things that we are going to see. As I said, in the future, you might have a chatbot at your disposal, either on your laptop, or you might have Siri or Google on your laptop as well, or sitting on your desk. Ensuring better communications with your clients is also something else you can do. PMOs all have clients. There might be the projects, it might be senior leadership. So it will tell you how that senior leadership likes. So for example, in financials, it might say the CFO likes to see all of the risks associated with this, but the CTO might not want risks of detail. He wants to see where the technology is going and what is amiss with the technology or what technologies you need. It helps in increasing the productivity of your entire team. It provides the team members within the PMO and on the projects and in the portfolio what they need to see. It takes out all of the data that they don't need to see, and it will provide them suggestions for decision making. It will analyze the pros and cons of projects and programs. So for example, if you have a project out there that might need to be a program, it will suggest to bring that in. It will also suggest what project is driving what on each project and what needs to be at the PMO level or the portfolio level or just at the project level. It will go back and look at similar projects and tell you, beware of this because on 55% of the other projects, this risk it became an issue. Or it might say, you've got this risk here, but it only occurred in 1% of all the other projects. You might want to put it way down on the list instead of keeping it high. So it analyzes pros and cons within your PMO. Again, it will do automated tasks for you. It will update the schedules based on what people are bringing in. It will go out and hound people to make sure that they are entering their data. It will do what if scenarios for you. It will tell you how to use resources more efficiently. It will tell you what the risk, cost, benefit is on your portfolio. Again, these are all suggestions. They are data-driven, but you as the person have the final say-so. It is not AI, it is you. It just helps you do your job. So what are some other ways that you can do it? You can do predictive analysis, as I mentioned. It analyzes the project before it even starts, before you bring it into the PMO, and then it does it throughout the project. It will tell you if it's going to end on time, if it's going to overrun, how much might it overrun unless you do X, Y, Z. So it'll help you with all of those. As I mentioned, chatbots are here to stay. So you have to make sure that you are staying in communication with your chatbot. It will help you work with your team members more efficiently. If you have a chatbot, and you have a quick question for somebody, you can ask the chatbot, please go out and find Mr. So-and-so. I need to ask him a quick question. It will go out and have the question out there, and then the person, as soon as they see it or they know the answer, they'll bring it back and you will get it immediately. Instead of trying to find so-and-so, you might have to call them, you might have to try to see if they're on vacation. But this chatbot could also come back and tell you, so-and-so is on vacation. May I suggest that you go and find somebody else? It will help you with data-driven decisions. So it's not based on your gut. So for example, oh, I've done something like this before, and when I did this, this worked. Well, it may have worked for you that one time, but at 90% of the other times, it has not. So you may want to take that into consideration. AI will coordinate meetings with you, for you, so you're not doing it. And what will AI do in the future? It will draft complete status reports for you. It will draft complex PowerPoints for you based on the audience. It will help you identify risks that you have overlooked. It's already doing that, but it's rather rudimentary right now. AI will eventually know you. It will ask questions and monitor the way you think. Alexa, Siri, and Google already do that if you interact with it a lot. It will start to know you and the company. It will ask the boss who else to talk to. So you are the boss. It will tell you that, hey, you might want to talk to so-and-so as a stakeholder because this is happening with that stakeholder. It will update business cases as needed. So what can you do to be a value add of AI? You have to be, do you innovate or you lag? If you are an innovator, you are going to succeed because you are staying up with what's going on in your area as far as disruptive technologies in your industry. I'm not asking you to be a ones and zeros person. No, not at all. You need to make sure that you understand what your industry is, and you need to push your industry and your company to use AI. If you're a laggard, that means you just kind of, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to see what happens. So don't do that. Be an innovator and create items that are going on within your industry. So make sure that you are pushing your industry. And let's say your company does have AI, but they're not letting you use it. What do? You put a business case together. And if your company has a business case template, use it. Believe me, if you do that, you will be noticed because people are going to start saying, this person knows that AI is coming and is in the company and understands how to use it on projects. And you have to be able to understand what it will drive to the bottom line. So you need to be able to articulate that if AI is used in our PMO, it will drive the return on investment by X amount. It will minimize the amount of projects that will fail by X amount. It will make people more productive by this amount. So if you can make it all tangible, it may not be accepted the first time, but keep on pushing. Also find the stakeholders that you need to go to beforehand outside of your boss to figure out who will support you and who will be detractors. And if you can't, get to those detractors and understand why and put that into your business case. So make sure that you put a business case if you're not. And if you get a new AI into your company, go to IT and see if it can be used on project management and bring it into the project management fold. So with that, let me come up with just a little bit of a conclusion. AI is here to stay. It's not going away. And if you don't use AI and understand how to use AI within the project environment and within your industry, then you are going to be a laggard and not an innovator. So be an innovator. Thank you very much for your time.